So for those of you who don't know, I post my income publicly every single month, and I have done for the last 4 or 5 months. And I did it for a few reasons, but one of the main ones was I would not be where I am today if other people weren't transparent about their numbers. And that's what I want to do in this video, because I grew up, so to speak, in the internet marketing, YouTube, SMMA space, watching Ali Abdaal and similar creators be super transparent about their numbers. And that's why I'm here, because I knew I could shoot for the moon and I could actually get there because there were other people doing it. So I'm going to talk about how my 2024 went financially, with the caveat that none of this is meant as a flex. It's only meant as like, hey, it took me like 5-6 years to get here. And I'll show some of that journey both along the way and at the end. But hopefully this is just inspiring, or at least informative, as to what these types of businesses can actually do revenue and profit wise. If you don't know me, I used to run a marketing agency, which I sold, and I started making YouTube videos around the time that I sold my agency. I've done a lot of consulting. I've worked with hundreds of small businesses and helped them with their marketing, and hundreds of other marketers and help them become better at marketing themselves and for other businesses. Consultant, YouTuber, and accidental affiliate marketer, which you'll see the majority of my income comes from that nowadays. So there are 5 streams of income that produce the total amount of revenue that I made this year, and we're just going to go through them one by one. And last thing, I promise before we get in, I made a video earlier this year talking about how I wanted to take home $1 million in 2024, meaning after paying my team and expenses, kind of be taxed on $1 million. And if you want to check that video out, this year ended up quite different from that. I think I got fairly close to the numbers that I was talking about, but they were from different revenue sources, and I'll talk about the reasoning behind that as I go. And really, this is just kind of going to be me talking off the cuff. I don't have an outline for this video other than the amount of each of these streams of income to talk through, but I'll just be sharing what I learned along the way. And if it helps one person along their journey to getting to a similar level in their business, that will be more than worth the time and money put into this video. All right, so starting with the first income stream, which is the lowest, and we'll go up to the highest. This is Streamline, which is my white label of GoHighLevel, the software. If you haven't heard of GoHighLevel, watch any of my other videos. But basically, it's a CRM software you can put your own brand on, and then you can sell that or resell that to people. And I started really taking this seriously in September, October of 2024. So super happy with the 12 grand. I think I've probably spent more than that rolling it out and just on the softwares and kind of learning, but we're actually pretty close to break even on this project, and 2025 should be really healthy profits here, which I'm excited about. The goal is to get to 1,000 sub accounts. I don't know how long it'll take, but hopefully we hit it by next year. And this is a much higher income stream next year. I'm not going to talk a ton about Streamline in this video, but if you want to see how I launched it, the process to do the same thing yourself, watch this video here. All right, that brings me to number 2, which is online courses. And I made $26,978 from online courses this year. Now, the story behind this is right after I sold my marketing agency, all of this really, really great knowledge was in my head still, and I wanted to record it as quickly as possible so as not to lose any of it. That became a growing library, 40 plus, I think even close to 60 hours of content now of just every single thing I know about running a marketing agency. And I sold that course for around $2,000 for most of 2023. And going into 2024, I knew I wanted to switch the model up a little bit. There were things I wasn't enjoying about it, and I just wanted to try something new. So I sold it through the end of January 2024, and then I switched to a new model, which is a community-based model where people can sign up weekly to attend calls, ask me questions, etc. So basically, instead of paying like $2,000 up front, they were paying $200 per week, and they could stay in as long as they wanted, and they got access to the entire library of everything. So we'll go over how much I made with that. But as part of kind of transitioning to this new model, the mentor I was working with at the time said, hey, you should unbundle your big course and sell mini courses. And so that's what I did. I took the individual modules, and they're listed on my website right now. You can go buy them. And it's things like how to market for a local business, how to get the foundations right for your agency, how to manage operations in your agency, how to have the right mindset to grow your agency to $50,000 a month. And I also released a couple additional ones throughout the year, like how to grow on YouTube without getting lucky, my personal favorite one. Check it out. It's definitely worth it. And I just listed these between like $100 and $200. And sometimes I would have flash sales on them, and I would send emails about it. People just find my YouTube videos, they go check out. And more recently, when people join my newsletter, hint, hint, I've been doing kind of an expiring invite. So basically they'll join, and then I'll say, hey, there's a discount on this course, but only if you buy it within the first 5 days of joining the newsletter. It's a thank you. And that has worked pretty well, because as we all know, humans without urgency or scarcity tend not to make decisions. So I use a software called Deadline Funnel, link for them below. It makes it an actual real piece of urgency and scarcity where it's actually off the table if they don't buy within the time frame. And honestly, looking at this number, I am super happy with it. I barely tried to sell courses at all. And with that, I can cover an entire overseas team member or two, depending on how much I'm paying them. And so it's just a great like bonus income, and it's something that I already have. So I may as well just list it. People find my website and they go from there. I really don't push these. And so this has been great. Also, what I'm going to be doing is listing my numbers from last year on each of these. So Streamline I didn't do last year, but last year I did sell courses and I actually sold way more. I sold about $150,000 worth of courses last year, but I also spent a fair amount on ads with that and just team expenses and in general. So I'd say that was probably closer to like $110,000 in direct profit from that, which again, I'm quite happy with that. I launched it in April of 2024. And so for that much money to come through in about 8 months from agency dominance, I'm ecstatic with, and it was great. So that brings us to number 3, which is agency clients. And the number for that is $28,800 in 2024. So the story behind this is that before I had the agency that I sold, I had more of a personal agency that wasn't a partnership in the same niche. And I ended up keeping a few of those clients separate. So did my partner. He kept a few separate from before we partnered. And those clients are actually still with me today. So they're my very first 3 clients ever that weren't my family business. So 3 clients that I got on my own, and they're all still paying me. So it comes out to about like $2,100 a month right now. I've reduced some of their subscriptions in the last year, and I'm super happy with that. I have a former student of mine that manages most of the day-to-day, and every once in a while when they have a request or something like that, I'll put my team on it. We'll fix it for them. And again, it covers a salary or 2 for me. And so this is a great boost that I'm not just going to cut off because the work involved isn't that much. And the lesson here is that if you onboard your clients correctly, they will love you and they will stay really forever if you don't give them the reason to leave. Now, it needs to be the right type of client, but some of the issues that agencies run into is because they've hired too much or they're not charging enough perhaps, and they have to sell, let's say 5 or 10 accounts in a given month to make payroll, actually pay themselves, and keep the business alive. And so they end up going really hard on the sales side of things. It essentially become a sales organization with maybe mediocre results on the back end, and they just end up churning a lot and having to replace that every month. So if you want to keep clients for like these ones I've had since 2019 at this point, so that's like 5.5 years, because even though I was brand new, I was really hyper fixated on getting everybody amazing results. And because of that, I over communicated. I met with them multiple times during the onboarding experience. And I always tell anybody I consult, like, hey, there's something to be said for bringing on really good clients slowly. And the more good clients you bring on and the slower you bring them on, the more likely you are to keep them forever or for years at a time. So if you're caught in that trap of just like more, and you're selling higher ticket agency services, you might consider slowing down, reducing the team size, and just going a bit slower, because I promise you retention will go up if you do that. Beautiful. That brings us to number 4. Are we on? And that is AdSense. So this is money that YouTube pays me for making YouTube videos. And that is a whopping $39,489.39. I'm so happy with that number, let me tell you. And while I'm telling you that, let me just pull up the analytics and I'll show you how many views it took to get that much in revenue. So if I sort by 2024 in my YouTube studio, I did 1.3 million views, which is 30% more than the year before. Watch hours, which is actually a more important metric than views, 65% more. Super proud of that. Subscribers went up by 16,000, which was 24% more than the next year. And as you can see, I'm not lying about the revenue here. My top videos in this time period, you can see here, really all just high level stuff. I've found that people like my style of teaching high level for some reason. I never thought that my channel would be pretty much just high level tutorials or high level strategy, but here we are. And, I've learned that in making content, it's really about seeing what people already naturally like from you and then just making that type of video over and over and over again. And yes, there's ways to keep it more interesting and make sure that you don't burn out, which I'm focusing on right now. You'll see a little more variety in 2025. But honestly, if high level is not in the title, I'm probably not releasing many videos like that this year because my SEO is just dialed at this point. Like if somebody types in Go High Level, I show up on that first page, and I want to become the channel where people are like, oh, I have a question on X, Y, or Z. And they're like, I got to go to Keaton's channel because it's obviously going to be the best, highest quality on this particular topic. So that's what we're working on in 2025. And to throw up 2023's revenue, we had $20,127. So a huge bump in here, almost double, which is awesome. One tip that I'll just throw in here for anyone wanting to grow a YouTube channel, focus on searchable videos, not viral videos. Going viral to me is exhausting. And so I really don't try to do it that much. I just try to pick topics of videos that people are going to to be searching for anyway, and then fill that content gap with the highest possible quality video so they can discover me that way. And then they find the other videos I've made, and I'm just trying to cover every single topic I can and rank on the first page in search. I really don't worry that much about going viral. All right, so that brings us to the next source of income, which is coaching. And in 2024, I made $84,315.86 from coaching. Now, this is a combination of that community model that I mentioned earlier, as well as some one-on-one sessions or kind of a one-on-one package that I used to sell at the very beginning of the year. And this is going to be the most important lesson that I learned this year. If you look at, I'll pop up a screenshot of what I thought this was going to be at the end of the year from that other video I mentioned. The reason that it's not higher is because I didn't want it to be. So since the very beginning of my time online, I've had people reach out to me and ask to buy an hour of my time or maybe have a consulting session or things like that. And I've always immensely enjoyed it. Like, my favorite thing to do is take a little break from being an agency owner and instead go do a couple calls and just jam out with people and get to know them and see what they have going on. It was so fun. And as soon as I switched to this community-based model, that joy started to go away. And I think it was partially my fault the way that I set it up, but it was also that my affiliate income was growing very quickly at the same exact time. And if you don't know, affiliate income is pretty much as close as it gets to passive income, completely passive income. So I was getting these, $50,000, $60,000 checks every month from affiliate marketing. And I was like, looking at how much I was making from the guild, which was my community at the time. And I think my biggest month was like 20,000. And not only was it sort of exhausting because I had so many people asking me questions and they were paying quite a bit of money, $200 a week for me to answer their questions. So I felt like I had to get back to them very quickly. But when someone would churn, I would have to replace them. And the stress of doing that on top of everything else I was already doing for the people who were in the group was just annoying. And it wasn't what I wanted to be focusing on doing. I'm not a very hard salesy pitch type person. I think that's why affiliate marketing works for me. It's because I'm selling somebody else's product. I can just talk about it and it doesn't feel salesy. But yeah, I just sort of realized that the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, at least for me. And I had so much potential going on in the affiliate realm that I just decided, hey, why don't I lean into that? It seems like a lot less work. And this consulting thing in general, answering the same questions all the time, feeling beholden to all of these people is just kind of burning me out. So I decided to shut that community down in July and just focus on affiliate marketing from then. And since then, the numbers have gone up significantly. So it was the right choice. And around the same time, I was going through a lot personally. And I'm so glad that I took the time to just breathe and kind of take a sabbatical. I really took almost 2 months off from content and a lot of the other stuff that I was doing to just breathe, because I had been working really since my wife had gotten pregnant in March of 2023. I hadn't stopped working really hard, except for maybe a week when the baby came. And so I took the break that I deserved during that time, and it was great. Now in 2023 from coaching, I made $65,480. So basically $20,000 less than 2024. However, what I really liked about 2023 is that I was doing it my way. And this is another really important lesson. If I had just stuck with the models that I was doing at the time, agency dominance, which was $2,000, and then I had a higher package, which was between $6,000 and $8,000 if you wanted to work really closely with me. And I just kind of kept that higher tier in 2024 of the $8,000 package. And I sold even like 10 of those. I would have made more money. I probably had a lot less stress because the quality of client coming through that can afford an $8,000 product and wants access to me is going to be very high. And so ironically, the more expensive clients end up being less work. And again, I'm at a point where I don't really need this income, but sometimes it's fun to work with somebody who really wants to work with me and we grow something cool together and chat a lot throughout the day. And I may bring it back in 2025, who knows? But it's a good lesson because not only did I like the way that I ran that, and looking back on it was very smart, but I love the way I marketed it too, because I literally just listed on a screen. I said, hey, this is everything that's included. Like, you get my phone number, we chat whenever you want. We have a call once a week that's limited to like 5 people, and you get access to all of my resources, etc. And by the way, it's $8,000, and do not sign up for a call to buy this if you cannot afford $8,000. And so I think my closing percentage was like 75%. I probably had like 2 or 3 calls for that particular thing that didn't close in 2023. And I should have just been like, yeah, it's worth, every once in a while taking a call that doesn't work out to have these really high quality people that I'm working with. So something to think about. Again, less is more. That tends to be the theme for me when I try to do something fancy. And that brings us to the last category, which is affiliate marketing and sponsorships. And I've lumped these two together because I don't have a ton of sponsorships on the channel. And as part of the contracts for the sponsorships, I don't reveal what I charged. So we're just going to lump them all together. It's not a super significant amount of this number. I'll just say that. And this is absolutely absolutely insane $812,000. Now, the vast majority of that came from GoHighLevel, which was $772,907.19. And the rest was from other software, sponsorships, other stuff like that. And this is significantly over last year, which was $155,566.08. So what happened? What did I do differently? Honestly, I just started to focus on it and treat it like a business. At the same time, this is the thing that I just never actually tried that hard at. And then I noticed the checks were just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And like, wow, this is maybe a real opportunity for me. And recently I started a podcast here in Utah where I go in person to Utah founders. And I talked to a highly successful startup founder here in Utah. It's called Beehive Meals. They do like freezer meals. And basically, punchline is they did like $8 million in their second year being open. And that was the first year they really started to take the business seriously. So the first year was just like, oh, wow, it seems like people want this freezer meal thing. Like, we'll see what happens. And they were just responding to the demand. And then eventually they're like, oh, maybe if we like started to market this and we, took operations a little more seriously, we could expand. And that's when they did $8 million. So I think it's sort of the same thing here where my affiliate business has succeeded in spite of me. Sure, I'm decent at making tutorials. I focus on quality content over quantity, which I think differentiates me from some people. But really at the end of the day, GoHighLevel's blowing up and I just happen to know a lot about it and start making videos at the right time. So pretty insane. And what's cool about this number is it's almost exactly what I predicted would come from this revenue stream in the video I did about 9 months ago. And that's the only one I got like remotely right. So kind of fun. All right. And that's it. Those are all the income streams. And when you add them all together, it comes to a grand total of, drumroll please, $1,003,779.64. So pretty cool to cross that 7-figure mark. I actually have never done that before. My biggest year previously revenue wise was $919,000. And there were significantly lower margins because of the agency there, but pretty cool. And to share 2023 numbers, the total revenue there was $453,922.92. So more than doubled this year. Super happy with that. We'll see if we do it again in 2025. That would be cool. I'd love to double profit. I don't know if I care to really double revenue, but we'll see what happens. All right, cool. So with all of that said, now it's time to talk about the juiciest part, in my opinion, which is the expenses. How much of that $1,003,000 did I actually keep? There's two main categories I'm going to do here. I wish I could separate them out a little bit more, but I didn't keep great track. And the way that my accountant does it doesn't really translate to how I want to do this video. So basically I have it divided between my team and other expenses. And what's interesting is these were almost exactly the same, split down the middle. So my team cost me $200,660.91. Other expenses in 2024 were $201,721.61, coming out to a total of $402,382.52. So that's how 2024 averaged. That is including taxes that I paid on 2023 and some quarterly taxes and other state taxes. That's included in the $201,000. Just to break down my team as it stands right now, because I know some people find that interesting, I spend about $15K a month on my team. I have a main video editor. I have a sort of what I would call general manager who manages some of the more higher skilled kind of executive type tasks where they involve decision making, but they're also involved technically. And then I have another virtual assistant who manages some of the less kind of executive type tasks and the more technical ones. These are all overseas, by the way. So 2 of those are in the Philippines. 1 is in Tunisia. And then I've got Ben, who you may have seen on some of the other videos on my channel. He's originally from South Africa, but he lives in Germany, and he makes videos for the channel, but he also responds to questions inside of my affiliate group. He responds to all the emails I get, all the DMs, all that kind of thing. So that's a core team for my personal brand and this business. I also have a designer that I pay hourly and that former student that I mentioned who manages my agency accounts that I pay just a flat rate every month. And then I mentioned the podcast that I have here in person. I have a podcast manager for that. And I have a videographer who is not full-time, but I pay a retainer too. And again, all in, that costs about $15K a month. When you throw in the videographer, it's probably more like $16 to $17K. The other costs, that $201,000, I mentioned taxes in there. I also pay insurance through there. I also write off a lot of stuff through the business that I can claim as a business expense, like new cameras, this King flip chart thing that I'm using for some videos. And it's really cool. You can buy nice stuff and you pay less taxes because you bought it through the business. So that includes all of that. That's all in. So that brings our profit number to something I'm really happy with, $601,396. $127.12. And I thought we'd close out this video kind of sharing the journey up to this point, because by no means was this an overnight success. And I want that to be extremely clear. So I'm going to pull up my kind of lifetime numbers here, and we'll go over how every single year has gone up to this point. So you can see, again, this wasn't overnight. I started my business in April of 2019. So that year wasn't a full year, but almost a full year. I made $52,240. And after $38,000 in expenses, I made about $14,000 profit. Right now, just ground rules for the next 3 tax years that I'm going to talk about, 2020, 2021, and 22. I had my agency, which was partnered, and I would draw kind of from there to my main business. So I'm going to share how much the agency made and how much I was able to take home from that in each of those years, plus any other income streams. So in 2020, the agency did $269,399. And we started that like right on January 1st. And I pulled, of the $269,000, I made $92,416.18. I also had my personal agency still that year with some leftover clients, which did $51,134, almost the same as 2019, kind of cool. And then I also did about $4,800 in coaching sales, just people reaching out to me. I did $208 in affiliate sales apparently, and $410 in AdSense. I had a completely different YouTube channel at that point that was about kind of like mindset and philosophy and that kind of thing. And I had a video go viral, and I started earning some AdSense from that, which is kind of cool. So the total amount of revenue made that year was $326,000, and I took home about $104,000 when all was said and done after the partnership and after the expenses, which were about $46,000 on everything inside of my own business entity. So that brings me to 2021, where the agency made $582,640. I pulled about $120,000 from that as a partner, so an increase over the year before. That was great. And my personal agency did about $34,000. I had coaching sales of about $2,500 and AdSense of $260. Apparently no affiliate revenue that year, although if I did have it, it would be quite small. So that brings the total revenue in 2021 to $619,869. And after $54,000 in expenses outside of the agency, I took home $102,314 that year. In 2022, and that was the $919,000 I mentioned, most of that was from my agency, which was $839,000. Then I had my personal agency still, which did $28,589. Coaching sales ramped up that year because I knew I was getting ready to sell the business, $41,000. And AdSense also ramped up because I started publishing a lot more videos, and I did $7,800 in AdSense that year. So after $55,000 of expenses outside of the agency, I took home about $147,000 that year. And I should mention that my draw from the $839,000 in the agency only went up by about $4,000 in 2022. So we were kind of flatlining in terms of profit or what we were able to pull as partners. And a lot of that was just due to mismanagement. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to scale past that point. And we were increasing costs trying to get more and more clients instead of growing slow, like I talked about before. So that brings me to 2023. I already told you the full revenue for that year was $453,922. To break down revenue there, that was about $244,902 from coaching and agency dominance. AdSense was almost $14,000. The personal agency, I brought on one more client during 2024, and so it was a little bit higher at $38,597. And then I did about $156,000 in affiliate revenue that year. However, my costs did go way up. It was $240,804, and that was on ads, on a new team, on a lot more video editing, etc. And so my total take home for that year was $213,000, which, you know, improvement over 2022, but I think I've like 3x that. So I think 2xing that in 2025 would be pretty legit, do 1.2 million take home. If you like this video and you want to follow along with the SaaS that I'm building and build yours with it, definitely check out this video where I go over the checklist that I did to build it. And I'd love for you to take anything from that video and apply it to your SaaS. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next year.